Welcome. You're listening to the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast, a podcast production of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County, Ohio. Thanks for joining us. And welcome back to another episode. In the studio with me is the one, the only, Dr. Ashley Ackerman. How are you doing today, Ashley?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning, boss?
I'm doing pretty well.
Great.
We've got a lot going on. We're very excited to talk about everything on today's show. And, as I look ahead to this new year and all the things that the board is focused on, I'm excited. I hope, some of our listeners, if they have specific topics, we don't always talk about this, but certainly they can reach out to the board and get in touch with either you or I. And we're always open to talking about things from the community members.
That's a great idea, actually. We should ask for people's feedback on that.
Yep. So they can get a hold of us, certainly on our 419-281-3139 number. But I just look at all the things that we're talking about today and just throughout the rest of this year. I think it's going to be an exciting year. And as you said, Dr. Ashley, my name is David Ross. I'm the executive director here at the board, and I am, excited about today. The only thing, Dr. Ashley, you're going to have to restrain me, keep me in our time frames. I don't want to bore the audience. But again, this, the production, this podcast, we really intended to try to educate as best we can and inform the Ashland County community about mental health and substance use services, both that the board funds through our contract partners, Appleseed, Catholic Charities, and Acada, but also more broadly, as we've talked about on these episodes. I am passionate, and I know you are too, Dr. Ashley, about educating the community in their own mental health and well-being and how they can go about securing that. And that doesn't always mean being involved with our system of care. It could. So I want folks to know how they can help themselves in their natural communities, but also when they do get involved with any of our systems, the best way to navigate, negotiate, and make sure they're getting the best care. So,
advocate for themselves in the system. Yeah, absolutely.
So, our first topic today is in line with that, and it's, we've been, for about 16 years now, we've been offering the Respect, Success, Value, and Purpose Conference. Most of you know it locally as the RSVP Conference, and that is coming up, Dr. Ashley, and we are excited to talk a little bit about that.
Exciting. Yeah, this is one of our biggest events.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is on Wednesday, March 26th this year.
2025, and we are back at Ashland University's Convocation Center.
Yes.
Yep. So, as we like to say, this was a conference built around a soup.
I love that, yeah.
For those of you who do not know, Ashland University has a mean mushroom soup. Mm-hmm. So we always have that. In fact, Dr. Ashley, if we do not have the soup at the conference, which we did one year, we neglected to have it.
Yeah.
We never had such low ratings at the conference.
It was on our evaluations,
oh, my
for
goodness.
sure.
Where's the soup?
Exactly. And I thought you were overemphasizing that soup, but it really is good.
It's a good soup. So
definitely.
Rest assured, those of you who are contemplating attending, we will have the mushroom soup.
Yes.
Now, I love what you did with some of the promo for the conference, Dr. Ashley. Warning, conference may cause side effects. And we landed on that because our keynote speaker, Brooke Seam, is the author of the book May Cause Side Effects. And I thought that was great because I think as Brooke talks about her book and her journey of discontinuing psychiatric medications that she was on beginning at age 15, on them for 15 years. But her journey is, I think, going to be thought-provoking for our attendees but difficult for some folks to hear, and that's okay because it's not something that's talked about a lot. Psychiatric drug discontinuation or tapering there's not a lot of good books. There's certainly not a lot of stories like Brooke's, which is why we're just thrilled to bring her in. So audiences, the audience can hear directly from her, ask her questions. But her story is just riveting and I think transformational.
Absolutely. So what are some of the side effects you think people might have from coming to the conference this year?
I think they'll be challenged. Their ways of thinking might be challenged a bit.
Yeah.
They might be a little bit anxious, maybe a little angry. Hopefully not too angry.
Yeah.
Because they may be hearing things that run contrary to what they've heard before. maybe even in their formal training. It may run against popular culture. I hope one of the side effects is positive, not just negative. I hope there's a sense of optimism and hope that folks can feel like they're able and can and should maybe take more control over what's going into their body, and that they can do that, and they should advocate for themselves more. And that's a focus that you and I and the board have. So I think that's a good distinction, Dr. Ashley. The side effects can be very, very positive, even if some of the emotions that the conference elicits might be somewhat.
I'm really hopeful people will feel more confident in making decisions about medication for themselves, for other people. Just making more informed, better decisions in that way.
And we'll do. This is just the first of many promotional efforts around the conference, but we are really, really hoping that we can get our professional folks, folks that are in the peer recovery, peer survivor movement. But I really am hoping we can get more general public than we've ever had for one of our conferences, because Brooke speaks to everybody. Brooke is not a counselor. She's not a psychologist, psychiatrist. She'll tell you she's trained as a chef. She was on a famous Chopped show. I think it was on the Food Network.
I think so, yeah.
And she won that season, that particular episode that she was on. She won, and so she's trained as a chef. So she writes, for like everybody. She writes in a normal tone, but she doesn't use. I don't think she uses overly complicated language or terms.
Right.
And if she does, she explains those. But I really want folks. So these are we're really reaching out to people that maybe have been on medications and have thought about. Wonder what life would be like for me without so many or any. It's also for parents that maybe, made the decision to put their children or child on medication, psychiatric medications, and weren't really sure about that decision.
Yeah.
Because guess what? In addition to Brooke, who's our keynote, her mother's coming. Dee Barbish is also going to be speaking, and she had to make that decision, when she said okay to put her 15-year-old daughter on these psychiatric medications. Yeah. And Dee has a lot to say about that, about the information that was presented to her and how she felt about making that decision then and now, as she's learned more and heard and interacted with her daughter and seen the effect of those medications over time. So Dee has a very compelling story of her own to tell, and that's why I really want parents to come, as well as individuals that maybe used to be or even currently on psychiatric, like I said, medications, but contemplating life without them.
Yeah, or like a parent thinking about putting their kid on medication, because that might be being pushed by a provider. I think this would be helpful for them too.
So we'll continue to promote that. We'll obviously have a link to the registration, which is live.
It is live,
and it's only $20 in person. Now, again, you get the soup, but you also get a whole day of conferencing for that $20. That includes breakfast, lunch. We'll have books there. If you don't have Brooke's book, say that 10 times fast.
Brooke's book.
Brooke's book. You can bring your copy, or you can buy it there. But Brooke is more than willing to sign that, and you can talk to her a little bit about that as well. Yeah. So $20 in person. Breakfast, lunch, snacks. The books will be available. We'll have plenty of vendors that'll be there. That'll be tabling. It's going to be a great time. Brooke, Dee, and then we have several other speakers that will be there as well.
Yeah, this is really exciting. And it's a hybrid conference again this year. So we have the Zoom option also. Yes. So if you can't attend in person, you can join by Zoom. Yep. And that's only going to be $10.
Yeah, nominal cost, but it does cover some of our costs to do that. And there is a cost to host that in a way that we think is professional. So, yes, $10 online. And I know we've got, one of the nice things about the RSVP conference, we've had speakers from all over the world. We had Dr. Moncrief from England a few years back, and she is wonderful. She has a new book coming up. We'll be talking about that on the podcast shortly. But so I know we have some folks, they just can't make it to Ashland County for the conference, but they're interested. So I hope that online presence grows for those that just can't make it, or they have a conflict, or the travel would be too much. So yes, $10 for the Zoom option. So all that will be in the episode description, Dr. Ashley. We are thrilled to have Brooke, Dee, and our other speakers for RSVP.
Yes. If you'd like to register for the conference, go to ashlandmhrb.org.
ashlandmhrb.org.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley. Next up is one of our local programs. So we try to cover a lot of ground on the program, including things that the board is involved with locally through our contract partners, Appleseed Catholic Charities and Acada. A program I wanted to spotlight today, Dr. Ashley, with you is the Transitional Age Youth Program. And again, what we mean by that are young people 16 to 24. Now, we're not super rigid with that age range, but that's roughly how transitional age youth is defined, 16 to 24. The research has shown that individuals in that age range, and if we think back just to our own 16 to 24-year-old, it's a critical juncture in our development and in our lives. And for us in the mental health and substance use world, we see it as an opportunity to help maybe change or reinforce a trajectory, a positive, healthy trajectory for young people that maybe just need support. Oftentimes, people in this age range don't have a lot of good natural supports. They might be struggling, whether that's in finance, education, direction, relationally. And what we don't want to see happen is somebody maybe come into our system and stay in our system, God forbid, get on Social Security when they wouldn't otherwise need to be if they had the right kinds of supports, training, direction, et cetera. So we started this program, the board funded it many years ago now at Appleseed and Catholic Charities to help engage these young people. A lot of them are coming out of the foster care system. Our school community liaison program identifies some of these young people maybe as they're younger. Sometimes our prevention educators identify young people that maybe they just don't have the supports. There's a lot of potential, but they just need somebody to walk beside them outside of school. So maybe it starts, while they're still in school, but, just because you hit 18, Dr. Ashley, doesn't mean that you're equipped to make wonderful decisions around education, employment, housing,
it's a vulnerable
relationships.
time. And you're making decisions that will impact you for a long time to come during that period. So, this is an important program.
I look back on, and I had a very mixed support system in my own personal life. So, I think back, some of the decisions I made were basically ignorant decisions because I didn't have a lot of people that I could go to and talk it through. I mean, now some might say, well, David, that's the school of hard knocks, and that's how you learn
things. That's how you learn, I guess.
And that's true, But, it would have been nice in retrospect to have at least even fight. I listened to their advice and didn't take it, which is what 18-year-old men do.
That's true.
At least I would have had the opportunity to talk it through with somebody. So when it all blew up, I could say, you know what? Dad did tell me that was going to happen. So hopefully the folks that are involved with this program, and again, it's at Appleseed and Catholic Charities, they will have somebody. If you're involved, they will have somebody that they can go to and talk with. And again, they focus on those areas of employment, in career, their housing and living situation, educational opportunities, whether that's GED or, trade or higher ed. And then the personal effectiveness and well-being, because again, these are all critical as we think about those four areas. Those are just critical areas for that, any age really, but particularly at that age. And life, community, functioning, these are the areas that your transitional age youth program will help you with. They use a model that's evidence-based. It's called the Transition to Independence Process Model, or the TIP model. I only say that, Dr. Ashley, because I want the audience to know that this is they're not flying by the seat of their pants. The workers, that this is an evidence-based model that they follow, and I think that makes a big difference. So again, if you are somebody in that age range, 16 to 24, or friend, family member, parent that think that additional support would be helpful for your 16 to 24-year-old, please contact Appleseed or Catholic Charities. Ask about the Transitional Aged Youth Program. They will route you to that worker and get you involved with that. But I'm very excited about that because I've seen it. We get reports. Audience may remember this from previous episodes. We get reports for the programs that the board funds on a regular basis. So you and I, Dr. Ashley, we get to read these stories. We get to read the transformative stories about maybe a young person that was going in one direction, got involved with the program, got the help, got the supports, got the caring individual and then boom, things changed, right?
Yeah.
They get through the schooling, they get through the job they need, they get the secure housing that they were looking for. So it's an important program.
For me, something also that's really impactful is when we meet with the agencies and we talk with them about the providers and what they're doing. And they're very, very passionate about helping that population and all the people that they work with. But I love hearing them talk about that work,
Agreed.
You can tell that they really care.
Yep.
So.
I would say that's been the case. There's only not been a lot of turnover with the workers in those positions, and I think that goes to what you're saying, Dr. Asher. They stay because they're very passionate. They really enjoy working with these young people. So anyway, Transitional Age Youth Program, I couldn't recommend that more. I mean, really can make a difference. And as I sometimes say, people get tired of me saying this, it really can change the trajectory of a young person's life.
Absolutely.
And that's why the board continues to fund it and why we're so passionate about it.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be a Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast episode if I didn't talk about a book.
Right.
If the audience is not aware, I've got a small problem.
A small problem,
Yes. Now, the staff know this, and some of the board members know this, but I have a voracious appetite for books and for reading. It's something that was instilled by Miss Weibel in second grade.
Miss Weibel.
Yeah, Miss Weibel. She's still around. Shout out to Miss Weibel at Smith School.
That's cute.
She engendered a love of books that my mother capitalized on. And when I read about, the mouse and the red motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and many other stories.
Stuart Little.
Well,
Was
maybe.
that him?
I don't know. Back, I think it was pre-Stuart Little. It was just called The Mouse and the Motorcycle or something.
Gotcha.
And I just, books to me were just a great way to learn, but also just fascinating to explore imagination. And that just has continued with me my entire adult life. So at any one time, Dr. Ashley, am reading around 25 books or so. So
he's not even minimizing that.
Nope. I love my books. Basically, that's why I had to buy a house, was basically the place for my books and my shoes. So anyway, today's book is Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means. This is an exciting book. Talk about may have side effects. It may have that for people. I guarantee a lot of folks that read it will be challenged by it. Avery is the publisher. They're an imprint of Penguin Random House, New York. It was a New York Times best-selling book, Good Energy, Casey Means. Again, information will be in the episode description. But Dr. Means, why I like her so much, is she is what we call an insider. So she is top of her class, I think Stanford Medical School graduate. She was on that track like a lot of physicians are. And she started to become disillusioned by what she was seeing, what she was being asked to do, the kind of education that she was receiving, the hyper-specialization of medicine that she was experiencing. And she said, I can't do this. This isn't fulfilling. This isn't what I thought medicine was going to be.
Interesting.
And so she's really pushed back. And as you know, the audience can't see, but I have the book in front of me. I'll read just several things that might push buttons for our audience, which is good. Dr. Ashley, I want them to go out and get the book and read it.
Yeah.
She says on page, I guess it would be page 8 in the introduction, we still treat the organ-specific results of the bad energy, not the bad energy itself. And what she's getting at there, and I'll let you figure out what she means by good and bad energy, reader. But what she's talking about is root causes versus symptoms. And Dr. Ashley and I have touched on that. I am passionate that we need to return to discussing root causes rather than just focusing on knocking down symptoms.
Yes.
Whether we're talking about primary physical health or psychological, mental health, substance use issues. Just a few more, because it's not enough. She says that the hospital system, pharmaceutical system, makes money on managing disease, not curing patients.
Yeah, and that's so true. Yeah. I love that.
And she says, let's look at the outcomes. Patients aren't getting better. But this idea of managing disease, not curing patients, again, there's a lot she talks about with the primary healthcare system, but there's so much overlap between primary health and physical health and mental and emotional health. But these systems are not radically different. I would argue.
Well, that's interesting. So they benefit from staying in that system financially, for
Yes.
one thing. Yeah.
Yes. So are we really focusing on length of stay? So for my brethren out there in the community behavioral health world, and just audience, if you forgot, Dr. Ashland and I both worked in that system for many, many years. We're both therapists by training and practice before we're now in these administrative roles. But I think we have to return to focusing on reducing the length of stay, the time somebody is in our system. We want to get them the help that they need so that they can come in, get that help, and leave our system back to their quote-unquote normal lives and their normal support systems as quickly as possible.
Definitely.
It should never be our goal is what I say, catch and keep. That's something that really bothers me. But there are payer systems, managed care, other funding systems that are really set up that promote that more of that catch and keep approach rather than turning folks over quickly.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to change that here at the board, and with the help of our partners, I know we can do that. And there's another kind of impactful quote on page 61. Every institution that impacts your health makes more money when you are sick and less than when you are healthy, from hospitals to pharma to medical schools and even insurance companies. So again, that's a challenging statement.
It is.
In some ways, she says, when it comes to preventing and managing chronic disease, you should not trust the medical system. Again, I know it's going to push some buttons for folks, but
so important to think critically about the care that you're receiving, you know, and the systems and why they are set up how they are.
Yeah. On page 64, she makes a difference here that I think really applies to our system. And it's my last quote, audience, so don't get mad with me. She says, we should consider listening to the medical system if we have an acute issue, like a life-threatening infection or broken bone. But when it comes to the chronic conditions that plague our lives, we should question almost every institution regarding nutrition or chronic disease advice. All you need to do is follow the money and incentives. So her point, and I think there's some parallel to our system, they do a good job when it comes to some kind of emergency and emergency and acute situations, but not so good on the preventative and the chronic conditions.
Yeah.
And I see that a little bit with our systems. I think, we promote our local 24/7 crisis line, and I have no reservations about doing that. I think the folks that do that are doing a great job. They do a great job in stabilizing people that are experiencing maybe suicidal or homicidal ideation or thoughts or intent.
I agree.
And they get them, the care that they need. But then we just have to make sure that the rest of the system, deals that effectively on that ongoing basis, and they reduce their length of stay to just what the individuals need.
Yeah, absolutely, especially for chronic, when we're looking at people who have mental health concerns over a long period of time. I think that's a very applicable quote.
Yeah. So, for those of you that are interested in a book that will push you a little bit, Dr. Casey Means' Good Energy book will do that. I do recommend it. She talks about the connection between our lifestyle choices, our energy levels. And again, you can't have good mental, emotional health without good physical health. So she will help educate us, I think all of us, as to some of the technology that's available to us to help us learn more about our own bodies. I think we all know that education is power. Not education. Education is power. Information is power. So the more information, accurate information we have about our own bodies, the better. You may know this, Dr. Ashley. I've talked before about my high blood pressure when I had no idea what it was unless I went to an appointment or something. But once I got that machine and I routinely started checking that was eye-opening.
Yeah, I bet.
I could track, how I was doing, how bad I was doing, how good I was doing. Some of these devices like the Lumen, Lumen, that checks a little bit about metabolism. There's just lots of devices now that we never used to have. So she encourages folks to maybe take advantage of the technology.
Yeah.
The more informed we are about our body, what it's telling us, because again, it tells us important things. We need to react to that. So
Definitely.
a scale is a very basic version of that, but are we using our scales?
Yeah.
So.
No, I really want to read that book now. So thank you for sharing those excerpts.
Yep.
Definitely.
Good energy. Casey means encourage folks to read it, but don't be fooled. You'll be challenged by it, but that's good, right? I like to read books that maybe challenge the way I'm thinking about things. Speaking of books, I'm not the only one that reads. Apparently, you read books too. Dr.
I
Ashley.
do read some books. I don't think I read as many as you. You're doing 25 at a time. I'm just trying to keep up here. But I did recently read a really good one that I wanted to recommend and talk a little bit about on the podcast. So this book is called Atomic Habits. By James Clear, and it's an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. So,
and you think good habits are a good idea? Is that what you're saying, Dr. Ashley?
I think, yes, they are a good idea.
Okay.
So he talks about how good habits produce results that multiply rapidly, and bad habits do the same. So there's this thing called aggregation. The more good that you are doing, good things, the more good that begets. So they accumulate, kind of. Right?
In both directions.
Both directions, yeah.
So good habits can beget more good
habits.
And then bad habits, more bad.
Yeah, and more good in general. So he talks about kindness. So being kind to someone, they react differently to you in the situation.
Yeah.
And more opportunities might come to you. Like the situation responds to you in some ways too.
So that's more like a 1 + 1 = 5 situation.
Exactly.
So it compounds itself. Very interesting.
I thought that was great. And also, on the flip of that, the bad habits do the same thing.
Interesting.
Also, he says tiny changes make a big difference. A daily improvement will leave you 37 times better at the end of the year.
What?
But again, bad habits, on the flip of that, a daily regression will leave you 37 times worse at the end of the year. So the little things that you do day to day really do add up, and they do matter in the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, isn't he the guy that talked about 4 laws of behavior change or something like that?
4 laws of behavior change. Yes, that's his framework for building and breaking bad habits.
Okay. So what are these 4 things?
So he says it's important to make it obvious. Design your environment to make the cues for productive habits more visible.
So that means like something on the fridge.
Yeah. So maybe like you have a chart where you're keeping track of the amount of water you're consuming in the day or something like that.
Okay.
It's obvious. It's something
so
you
make
see.
it obvious.
Yeah.
So whatever habits you're working on, make that obvious. Okay.
Yeah.
What's another one?
Make it attractive.
Okay.
Increase the appeal of productive habits by pairing them with enjoyable activities. He calls that habit stacking. So that's a technique that encourages you to combine routines.
Habit stacking? Is this Frodo on top of Bilbo? Is that what you're saying?
I love some hobbits, so we can go there if you
audience, yes. Dr. Ashley does have a strange affinity for hobbits, but we're talking about habits.
We're going to go down a rabbit trail now.
No, hobbit trail.
Hobbit trail. So, for example, if you are trying to consume more news or information, maybe you pair that with having your morning coffee. So you already have this coffee routine. You incorporate another habit that's positive with that, and it's easier to do that if you're stacking it with habits you already have.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Another law of behavior change.
Number 3. Okay.
Yes, number 3. Make it easy. Simplify your habits to reduce friction and make them easier to start and maintain. I think if they're easier, you're more likely to do them, right? So that makes sense. Make it satisfying.
4th.
Yeah. Incorporate immediate rewards to reinforce productive behavior.
Immediate rewards. Okay. So you want to, as best you can, and incorporate something that you can see a relatively quick payoff, you think?
I think so. Yeah. Small things, small daily things that you see some results with right away. Because if you don't see any kind of positive reward from it, you're not likely to keep doing it. Yeah. So I think one of the other important parts of this book was automation. He talks about when actions become habits, they're practiced repeatedly, and they eventually take less mental focus to carry out.
It becomes automatic?
Automatic, yeah. So your brain then has more freedom to do other things because it's not focused on whatever this is. And I thought this was a really good example. You like car analogies, so.
I do.
When you first learn to drive a car, you are focused on every little thing that you have to do.
It was exhausting.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember my dad taking me out in the car for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I do the windshield wipers? And he's like, let's not worry about the windshield wipers. Let's, focus on the basics.
Yeah.
He was probably scared.
You're trying to set the cruise on your first drive.
Right. So I think that's a good example. So once you've been driving for a long time, it becomes very automatic. And you can listen to a book. You can, listen to music while you're driving. Think higher thoughts while you're driving. You're not actually focused on those things that have become automatic.
Yeah.
So I really like that, becoming automatic.
And I guess, maybe as the counselor in me, it's coming out. It's interesting because I think bad habits can become automatic. And so much of what I did in my clinical work was drawing attention to the individual, maybe a bad habit that had become automatic, that they didn't realize that how automatically they would respond to a situation or a person in a way that wasn't helpful. And as we raised awareness that they were doing that and they acknowledged it, then we were better able to make some changes.
So that actually is a really good point because the author talks about that too, that the first step in changing a behavior is having some self-awareness of it. If you're not aware of it, like how would you even change that? So
makes sense.
Great point.
Well, that is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah, I recommend that one.
Clear, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, all of these will be in the episode description, everything we talked about, the programming, et cetera. But Dr. Ashley, appreciate that you read books as well, and we'll continue to incorporate local programming, some news items as we get through the year. But again, I'm excited for RSVP, and that's coming up here in March. It'll be here before we know it.
Yes.
I hope to see some of our listeners at the conference. That would be nice. We'll make sure we have some of our mugs there at our table.
Good idea.
If you want Dr. Ashley's signature, she is willing to do that, right?
Anytime.
All right.
I can't imagine who would want this, but
well, we got a lot of family.
Yes, we do.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening again, and we will see you next time on the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast. The podcast is a production of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County, Ohio. You can reach the board by calling 419-281-3139. Please remember that the board funds a local 24/7 crisis line through Appleseed Community Mental Health Center. It can be reached by calling 419-289-6111. That's 419-289-6111. Until next time, please join us in Keeping Ashland Healthy.